Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Xaereth Prevails, a Grand Arena story. Today is kind of an interesting one. We're in the finals, facing another Galactic Ray with their ultimate, and it's gonna be kind of interesting. My opponent put we'll just say an interesting defense down. I also have to find a way to get the Hoth feat and also get the R2 and Old Ben feat, so that will be interesting. And then before that, I'm actually going to show you guys a defense that I just thought it was funny. It's not even my account, but what it is there's a guy who goes like so crazy on defense that he literally hasn't saved a single meta team. So he does that all the time, and my buddy Hens just is sick of it because that's not a fun, engaging way to play. It's I don't want to have fun. I don't want to play this game mode, and no one else should be able to have fun and engage in this game mode either. So I'm just going to be lazy, throw everything in the front, and then poke their defenses with a stick. Maybe not even clear a full zone, that kind of approach. So I'm going to show you guys how that went, just pretty briefly, and then we'll get into the actual match. So a lot of things going on here, and hope you guys enjoy. First, want to give a huge shout out to all of my patrons. Really appreciate all of the support, guys. You guys are amazing. And now I wanted to show you guys just real briefly my buddy Hens and his defenses that he set. So he set equally impossible to penetrate defenses. Just all of the meta teams, Rey, Darth Revan, General Skywalker, Commander Luke, all of that. And his opponent only was able to kill 2 of them and multiple attempts on others. Here's what his opponent said against him, and it's just equally ridiculous. He just sets every single good team on defense, and so Hens just outdid him, saved a couple key teams for offense, and cleared 2 zones and got the win. And he just did it to annoy the guy. Like, the guy just pokes, and he just killed 2 squads. That's all he could do. I just thought it was funny. So we can move on. I just, those guys who want to go full defense, I'm glad sometimes people take it upon themselves to make them sad. So my match here, we're in the finals, faced off against a new dude named Moff Alex. And, multiple Fs, probably typed an extra F when they found out they had to face me, and that's all right. So, looking at the stats in this match, my opponent has more tier 6 and tier 5 relics. We have the same 7. Overall, they do have me beat, not by a huge margin, honestly, but, it is significant-ish, I suppose. I have a few more Zetas, and I have more Gear 13. We're pretty close to even on that as well. For mods, I do out-mod my opponent by a significant margin, but, we can't even use all of our mods that we have available in 3v3, so not as big of a deal. I think the biggest disparity here is my opponent has 240k lifetime banners. I have, at the start of this, 313k. They have Galactic Ray with an ultimate, and that is probably the scariest part of their roster. I mean, it's the one that I have to prepare for and focus on the most. I was really pleased to see that my opponent did not put Han and Chewie with Galactic Ray, which I think people are going to start doing quite a bit now moving forward, so going to have to take steps to mitigate that. And otherwise, nothing on his defense looked that scary. Like, it's all pretty routine stuff that you see in 3v3. So, of course, the first one we're going to have to try and take out is the Galactic Ray. She has the Resistance heroes with her, and, that's fine. It's an okay comp. And what we're doing here, I had to check speeds first. I needed to make sure that Hux would be faster after all of the bonuses that he gets and Kylo gives and Poe gets from Galactic Ray, that Hux would be faster than Poe. He was, so the the game was afoot. We got Kylo to stun Finn, and then he stunned Poe, and then I could take out Finn, and now we're taking out Poe. And one thing to keep in mind here, we fractured Rey. It's a race right now to try to get the ultimate on Kylo by the time that Rey puts her ultimate up. So we actually are, at this point, I already have the ultimate ready. She has the ultimate as well, so now it's just a question of like, what do we do with Hux? What do I do here? Probably I should have just shot with him and gotten Kylo's ultimate even closer, but I did give turn meter to Kylo. He put his ultimate up, she hit him, and he was invulnerable, and now Rey is going to have a much more difficult time to get her ultimate up, and we can get ours up faster by 10% every time we take a turn because we can just use the basic, and that does 2 hits, so that's 2 crits, and that makes it go up by 10% each time. And, she still has a ton of health. She was modded for crazy health, actually. I think she was at like 260k. That might be a little high, but it was very high. I didn't realize they made Rey's that healthy. But of course she died, so she wasn't that healthy. And 47 banners, but 47 isn't great, but it's a one-shot. And it's not 46, obviously, because it's 47, but could have been 46. So happy enough with that. We're still trying to get through this bottom zone here, see what's in the back. And there's Geonosians, and the Geonosians aren't that great, but there are some relics there, so I decided to take Marauder with me on this one. If you remember from last fight, my Traya barely held on to beat Geos, or I guess it was 2 fights ago, but Sion got taken out by the spy, and then Traya held on for the barely scary win. So decided to take Marauder here just as a fail-safe. 1 extra backup can't hurt, even for Sith, even though they don't like to admit that they need help, they do. And so we should provide it for them, even if they pretend like they don't want it. So, the goal here, we put isolate onto the brute. That's pretty standard operating procedure. And then we just let the Geonosians slowly commit ritual suicide until they're at the lowest level of health that they can be, until we can take them out. And Spy tried a big hit on Sion and didn't work. 52 banners is good enough. And now we can move on to the final squad here in the zone. And we want to be real careful here. Droideka has really high relics, high enough to kill a lot of different characters. Magna Guard is a pretty decent tank, and then there's also Poggle, who adds a ton of offense to that team. And what I ended up deciding, I don't want to waste this Kylo Ren team with Watt, but at the same time, I know for a fact that my Relic 7 tanky as hell Kylo Ren Unmasked can tank 1 big shot from Droideka, provided the stacks aren't too huge, but I wanted to make sure that I had the means to survive this. I didn't want it to go into multiple hits, and this team isn't a central piece to my plan. And now we're hitting Magna Guard just until First Order Executioner can get a big hit in. We can dispel Droideka, reduce turn meter, and now we can just pause Droideka. He's at like 10 stacks or something, but he couldn't go, and then we eventually just killed him before he could go. And now we just finish the execution of Magna Guard. Magna Guard gets 1 last FU hit to everyone and to my banners and dies. So instead of 54 like we had previously, his FU cost me 1 banner, so how dare you, and FU back. But we do get to see the back zone, and it's a joke. It's not really a back zone. It's not good. None of these teams are challenging. The Dooku team is maybe a tiny bit challenging. I don't know, but you know, Jawas can be scary if you don't know what you're doing, but combined with the top zone, like, I haven't really used any good teams. I used my Supreme Leader Kylo, which is a good team, I suppose, but you know, that's one team that I never assume I'm going to get to use on anything other than Rey. So, I mean, it's a net win, frankly. So, taking Padme here up top against this Kylo Ren unmasked team, and this is one of the more challenging fights I have, because you can see how much turn meter they're gaining, and it's just very difficult to chew through these guys. Kylo is taunting a lot. Original Kylo, OG Kylo, is doing his AoE so that he can consistently just give a ton of turn meter to his team. My team is fast-ish, but not fast when you compare it to all these other these turn meter shenanigans that they're going through. So almost took out Executioner, and that's what you want to do first, because he is the only one on their team who is susceptible to damage through courage. And one thing that I do a very poor job of in this fight that you'll notice is what I intended to do and just totally forgot until the match was basically over, is I wanted to save my my cleanses from Padme and from General Kenobi for when Kylo Ren stunned someone for 2 turns, and that way I would just have it ready and available to just cleanse whoever was stunned for 2 turns. And you see that Kenobi could have cleansed Padme just there, but he did have some courage on him, I think. Even if he didn't, he finished off Executioner, and now the only way this fight is plausible at all is that Jedi Knight Anakin has healing immunity and is willing to apply it liberally. I did, before this fight, check to make sure that I had enough potency to actually apply it, because I've seen some people build their Kylo Ren teams with a ton of tenacity, so that Jedi Knight Anakins who are unprepared can't actually apply any of these debuffs that he needs. Like, if there's no healing immunity here, then this Padme team just times out, because there's not enough damage to actually take either of these Kylos out on their own. We need healing immunity. So it took a while to actually knock this team down, but in the end, all they did was steal our protection banners, which we just assume we're going to lose anyways because it's Padme. And she can't regenerate protection. So happy enough with that result. That was probably the scariest team, the best modded team. So we can take that out. Now we're going to use Bounty Hunters against a Night Sisters comp with Newt. And this is actually perfect. Newt is not the leader. He's Newt the leader. And Asajj is, that's fine. You know, the awesome thing about this composition and the pairing of it with Bounty Hunters is that Bounty Hunters can one-shot both Asajj and Newt. You know, Newt has his revive mechanic that he comes back after the first time you kill him, and Asajj comes back twice after you kill her because of zombie. And that's great, I guess. Great for her, great for them. But if you have Jingo, he can just end them on his turn with one shot. If you use Execute from Boba, that happens too. And you can ignore the taunt from Zombie. Really easy team if you're using Bounty Hunters, which I was, and the match was over pretty quick. It's very satisfying to kill Newt and just have him stay down after the first hit. Yeah, really fun. So now we have 2 more teams up top before we can play around in the back, and I'm trying to figure out which teams I can use so that I can save General Skywalker so that he can hold the hands of my Hoth Rebel Soldier and Hoth Rebel Scout in order to get one of the feats that we have. And so we have Jedi Revan here with Jolee and Grandmaster Yoda. They have a General Grievous squad here with the two droids B1 and B2, which is fine. B2 is not even gear 13, so not going to he's not going to pose much of an issue for me. And we have to take B2 out first, if possible, because he is just going to give them a ton of turn meter. He's going to take out all of my buffs if he can. So he's actually taking a little more effort to take out than I had originally thought, but wasn't that tough. And now we're just going to wait. We're going to hit B1 for a while until we have Mark again. And it took long enough to take out B2 that I actually had Mark available pretty soon after that. And now we'll just pummel General Grievous until he is dead. We want to make sure that we're keeping an eye on the stacks on B1. We don't want to kill B1 before Grievous is dead, because Grievous will then take a bonus turn and try to blender us, which is not a pleasant thing, let me tell you. And now that he's gone, we're just trying to increase the protection on every character, try to regenerate that, get a couple banners back if possible. I always use Jolie's healing ability. It doesn't really regenerate protection, I don't think, but it always feels like it does. So that's good enough. As long as it feels like it is, then we can continue. I don't know. I'm good at logic. So one more squad, and this Hux team is actually, it can be fairly problematic, just because Hux makes it so that you can't gain bonus turn meter. If you kill Hux, then Red Trooper goes and shoots everyone with an AoE, but this Red Trooper didn't hit hard enough to really worry me that much, so take out Hux, take out Red Trooper, and now I'm just doing moves so that it will regenerate my health and protection via Chewie's assists, and 54 banners in a few seconds. Pretty cool. Good result. And honestly, that was a pretty easy zone as well. Those are all difficult teams if there are other difficult teams on the board, but none of the teams are difficult really. Especially this bottom zone is like, I don't have to worry about it. I have to worry about 7 total teams plus some characters who can solo these teams in the back. It's a clear case of my opponent not expecting me to somehow get through their Galactic Ray, even though I have Supreme Kylo. Like, I don't know. I don't understand what my opponent was doing or what they were thinking. But I mean, the key here is they did save a ton of teams for offense. We have to make sure that we're being as efficient as possible here and not messing things up. We don't want to lose to someone who's done this. We want to take advantage as fast as possible. Now you'll note that I'm taking 3PO here instead of R2-D2. I do think that R2 would maybe be a little bit better of a choice in this case because he could stun some of these characters, but we want to save R2-D2 because he needs to be paired with Old Ben for a feat that we can do because this back zone is so incompetently staffed. So 54 banners there. I don't know that they got a turn. If they did, we healed from it. And now, the most threatening squad here is like Karth, I guess, or I guess Jawas can be threatening if you don't know how to tackle them. One thing to keep in mind is that if you're doing a lot of attacks on other Jawas, other than the Scavenger, then you're going to potentially be placing a bunch of thermal detonators on yourself, which can really be problematic. So I was clicking around trying to make sure I knew which one was Scavenger. Took out Scavenger, and actually, it's funny, I remembered that wrong. I thought that Scavenger survived more than 2 hits. So didn't get full banners there, but my Hoth bros are not well geared, and General Skywalker just dragged them to victory for me, so good enough for me. So that's that feat done. Had to get a win on this particular match, which is the finals. It's obnoxious, frankly. A lot of people didn't get that feat, so I'm fortunate enough that I did, obviously. This other feat, we had a full week to do, or at least 2 matches. I don't remember now. This is a timeout team, and this is Veteran Smuggler Chewie, so he actually hits really hard, and it actually looks looks like a timeout team. It's not as much of one, though. So we got to be careful about veteran Chewie. We want to take out Vander Chewbacca so that he doesn't get prepared, and then just keep reviving these other characters. And so we have Vander Chewbacca pretty close to dead. I decided to stun veteran Chewie just to make sure he's not going to do anything crazy. And you'll note that I'm not taunting with Old Ben. I don't want him there in his capacity as a tank. I want him there simply because I want to be able to use him to win my missions, or to win my feat. Now, I did stun Kira and then kill her after Chewbacca was stunned, and really what I wanted to do, I wanted to make sure that he was stunned so we couldn't get any crazy bonuses or anything. I forget how his kit works at the time of this recording, but if his leader dies on resistance, at least he immediately gets extra turns and does more damage, and you want to avoid that. Now I don't remember if that's only resistance or if that's also for scoundrels, but one way or another, it's all good. Now, this is something I stumbled on. I found out later that other people have been doing this for a while, but it took me a while. I'm a slow learner at times, apparently. And so we have my Relic 7 Kylo here. He has his Zeta, so he's regenerating protection every time he does his second special. And they're doing so many dots, damage over time, debuffs to me, that I'm just getting a ton of extra power, a ton of extra everything, speed, and so I'm messing around here. Honestly, I'm kind of playing with my food a little bit. I know that Indigo disapproves, but I like to mess around. I was never really in danger. I wanted to see what the best combination was to do AoEs or to do my big hit, or should I try to get healing immunity with my basic? What should I do? And in the end, I actually didn't come to any conclusions except that it's really fun to use my second special sometimes because of how obnoxiously hard it can hit. And one thing to point out here, you guys see I'm missing a lot, and that's because Mission keeps applying the debuff blind to me. And, that's a pretty good debuff, obviously, because it makes me miss. And, it's good enough. So now we're just I want to make sure that I'm getting 56 banners if possible, which means I need to use my second special. You can see that he was blinded there, so I wanted to use my first special to get rid of the blind so I would actually hit, and eventually, finish the fight with my second special so that I could have max protection, and that's what I did. So bottom zone, that it wasn't really a zone, it was I guess we could call it a feat zone. It easily dealt with, and now we have a 5-star malevolence, and we can just be done with this charade of a finals. And we do need to take really one thing, if I can preach for just a minute, one thing that we need to take seriously, guys, is if our opponents have a really weak defense, we can laugh and congratulate ourselves and everything after the match is done. Before we have the win, we need to be as focused as possible. I've seen so many people send me messages. Seriously, it's crazy to me, honestly. It's staggering how often people send me messages. They're like, I'm going to quit the game if I lose to this guy. And then, they've already written them off because of mods or because of, whatever. You would be shocked to know how many times people have said things like that to me. And then later when I follow up with them, because they didn't send me a screenshot of their victory, they send something that says like, oh, I messed up on this and this, I lost my focus. Just take care of business and then send me a message saying, hey, look at how badly I stomped this noob. Do it in that order, tell me after everything's done. So anyways, or do what you want. I will just mock you in the back of my head when you lose in that situation. So just be prepared for that. Now, this Malevolence fight is like all the other ones I've been doing lately. It's been a cool thing lately for people to put Malevolence on defense, and it can steal banners if your opponent only has Malevolence to deal with it. But I've just kept Negotiator because I don't want to deal with the cat and mouse BS of like, are they going to place Malevolence or Negotiator? Negotiator beats all ships equally. They're equal opportunity ship killers, and really this is a pretty cut and dry fight at this point for me. It wasn't always easy, but even with Millennium Falcon here, it can be pretty easy. So you see, I have to kill all the ads, all the other characters other than Millennium Falcon first. One thing to point out though, Falcon actually doesn't have his buff right now. I can target him, and so at some point they lost it. I didn't realize that for a minute and was targeting other things. When I did realize it, it was all over. 62 banners. My rule of thumb is if you get 60 or above in fleet, then you should just be happy and continue on. Just be grateful for what you got. And really, they had Ultimate Ray, and they had basically nothing else. I cleared them for 2462. They were going to have a really hard time beating that score. And so, here's a screenshot of all of the different feats that I had done. Got the Old Ben and R2 one, the Hoth Brothers, the Arena one. So, anyways, my opponent didn't attack for a long time. 2 hours and 26 minutes are left. And then you can see this screenshot. Now we have an hour and 21 minutes remaining. And it's just... sad. Apparently, I was impatient, an hour and 6 minutes, and I had to go to work at this point. So they weren't attacking, and I didn't give them much hope anyways. And so at the end of my attacks, I actually hit top 50 for a little bit, and then, of course, other people attacked. I got boosted to 72. You can see at the bottom, I'm really close to Chromium, or to Erodium League, actually. And I guess I should also point out that I won my match. They never attacked that I could tell. My final score, their final score was indicative of them not having attacked, which is fine, I guess. Kind of a sham of a finals, but whatever. And you could see, though, what I was pointing out, I'm really close to getting into Erodium. If I did cash in my final feat for undersized ships that I can do at any time, I would actually be very close to the deadline or the cutoff for Erodium. That would be a miserable league indeed to be in, but not going to do that, and not really a choice anyways. But what I would be, if I cashed in those points, I would actually be in place number 20, at least as of this screenshot. So kind of cool. Not that top 20 really means anything. I will eventually become extremely inefficient as my matches get more and more ridiculously difficult, which will be more entertaining to watch, I'm sure, but I don't really have much shot of getting into the top 10. It's fun to celebrate it for now, though, right? So that's what I'm doing. Exciting to be there, and yeah, so happy enough to be where I'm at. I don't expect to stay there. And that's it, folks. Got the win. That's great. 6-0, so undefeated so far this season. That's wonderful. This wasn't that interesting. My opponent was executed. They made the finals. Great. I kind of think that maybe they just made the finals because no one else could beat their Galactic Ray. So it is what it is. No, nothing snide or whatever against my opponent. Not trying to be offensive. I just they didn't even try to do anything. They put Galactic Ray in there, and you know, it seems like maybe they just thought that would be enough, and it really isn't. These garbage zones in the back, that I don't know. I mean, I benefited from it, so you know, no real complaints from me, but you know, I hope all my opponents do that, but at the same time, it's not real engaging. Like, people just assume you can't beat a team, even though I have Ultimate Kylo. Like, it's not that much of a stretch. It's not like I just don't have a Galactic Legend, and therefore you assume, you know, a Galactic Legend can't be beat. So, anyways, you know, it is what it is, and I'm happy enough to have won. I would consider my most recent match more of a finals match, even though that was semifinals. So, you know, if you haven't seen that, go and watch that. That's pretty good. And otherwise, you know, there's a pretty good match in the finals between my buddy Solo and Black Mamba in the finals. So go check that out. I'll try to remember to link it in the video description here. If I don't remember, just search for him. You should find it. So anyways, folks, I'm going to let you go. I'll see you next week. So thank you all so much for watching, and remember that in all things, Xaereth prevails.